Welcome to Elive Freedom. I'll tell you a little bit of the purpose behind Elive Freedom. I had the idea actually 3-4 years ago when I was in India and Nepal with my family, and I noticed that there's a lot of education in life that if people actually just open up their mind to like new ways of living or thinking or looking at things in life, that they actually are more alive and they're excited. And so the idea of the Elive Freedom was that if you put like a new thought in your mind, that it activates energy. And that's where Elive Freedom came from, especially looking at all the programming and the patterns that a lot of people are, we're kind of conditioned with as we grow up around us, like our environment, like our parents, our family, what other people tell us, the media, and especially now all the distractions that we have in the world. So, so I just want to first, thank you for taking out the time and coming on the channel. And I wanted to highlight like what it is that you do for people. And I had gotten an email from you, and we talked a couple times, and I felt like the people that you work with, you give tremendous value, and you have a lot of connections that are in tune for what that person may have in mind.
Yes.
So you're like a really good connector as far as like listening very closely, and then evaluating like perhaps who would be best for the person that you're speaking with.
Yes.
Through your network, and also picking up on their energy and what it is that they're going towards. So I just want to welcome you. I know you have a couple websites. If you want to share them, that would be great. And the first question I wanted you to do was to just tell people a little bit about how you got started on your journey. How did you come about this path, and what are some of the significant events that led you to where you are today?
I actually think that where we end up on this path has been seeded through our entire life. Like, I didn't know it, but the things that happened to me, throughout my life, they actually brought me exactly to where I needed to be. So I was brought up in a very strict religious household, Jehovah's Witness. So it's very, do what you're told, all by the book, by the Bible, and then the human interpretation of it. So I was always questioning it as a child. I would always have all these questions. And of course I was told, well, just do it. Like, don't ask questions. So that didn't really sit well with me, but I did it. And being an overachiever, I did it well. And I had all these other experiences as a child. I experienced sexual abuse as a child, which I didn't actually know until I was 38. That was incest. I had other physical trauma and all these different things where I actually shut down my sexuality at some point. It was a culmination of a lot of things. It was leaving the religion and really having, everyone I knew, fiance, family, friends, pretty much gone overnight. I experienced a rape at the same time. And I just, first of all, I went promiscuous, and then I shut it off. And that's really where a lot of my traumas, self-perpetuated, started. And several years later, I actually found energy work. And it was such a relief, because it's like things finally made sense. The things that I'd been told as a child, all the questions I had a different answer, one that actually resonated with me. So by following the path of energy, processes, and modalities, I kind of gobbled them all up, and then started to think, like, how can I be of service? So I actually went into coaching. My idea is that I wanted to create a foundation for children so that they could have abuse addressed early. So why not, have it addressed at 6 or 11 or 17, rather than, when I had it addressed at 30 or, people who are older, and it doesn't seem to work. And then really kind of following the path, sacred sexuality became a part of my path. I kind of dragged my feet for a long time, but it is what we experience, what we deal with, that leads us directly to our path.
Right. And one of my questions, because, you know, a lot of people that listen, because obviously sexuality, there's a lot of shame around it. There's a lot of judgment, you know, for some people, you know, like there's this whole belief around spirituality that some people carry with them, that sexuality is not spiritual. And, you know, you hear a lot of people that, like, if they just go off by themselves and just meditate, that, you know, that you shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't have to worry about anybody else, and just kind of like, you know, that to evolve to a certain level, that doesn't include sexuality, that you should just like let all that stuff go. One of the things that I was going to ask you is how you feel that the flow of sexuality, and a lot of people I've talked to, they mention sexuality as being life force energy. What would be a new way of somebody actually looking at sexuality in their life to be a life force? Like, what's another way that people could look at it? And is that something that you've experienced as you've talked to clients where they say, oh yeah, you know, I can't talk about this. You know, how do you open up those channels for people to look at it in a different light?
I think it's about challenging belief systems.
Right.
And I actually think there needs to be kind of a movement where we step away from belief systems and move to truth systems. And it's our truth. So what's true for us? So I challenge, what are your beliefs around it? I personally believe that your sexuality is your spirituality. It's an aspect of it. There is no difference. And some people may find that a bit, you know, off-putting because, you know, they have it segregated. But if you believe in a higher source, if you believe in God, God created you with this body, with this energy. So if you're actually not using it, you're wasting a God-given gift. And this energy literally creates life. And what I like to say is, why not create your own?
Right. Cool. And then as far as like, one of the things that I see happening with the world and media is there's a lot of disconnection. And there's a lot of, I think a lot of seeds are being planted with specific causes or stories, you know, like supporting, you know, kind of like this whole, you know, like politics, for an example, or, you know, just all these stories that are in the news that cause like people to be angry and to be mad. And it's kind of like, it pits one person against the other.
Yes.
And I think, you know, coming from more of a sense of oneness, you know, and being connected to the universe, the fact that there's so many infinite possibilities. One of the practices that I take on, whether I'm doing business with somebody or whether I meet with somebody or whether they're a friend of mine, is in a way acting as if they are you and you are them, and really taking ownership in the energy. Like when you're serving somebody, even from a business standpoint, you know, I feel like a lot of people are disconnected where they're like, oh, well, they have their business and I shouldn't worry about them. You know, even though they're like, they could be like one of your clients, it's like disconnecting even in that way can be detrimental to like the relationship, or your work relationship. And I think there's a big thing with like doing things a certain way in life where you're really serving other people. For example, if you're a teacher and you're teaching your student as if your student is you, like with that kind of commitment, I believe that the value comes through on a really massive level where people can feel that energy. But in the same respect, if you're a teacher and you don't push somebody and you're like, well, you're just paying me for X amount of time, so I'm going to give you X amount, and then after X amount, I'm done. And there's nothing wrong with like setting boundaries and, you know, being business-like. But I think there's a lot of people out there today that are in business that miss the value of that connection between, whether it be the client and the customer, or, whether it be a relationship. So I feel like there's a lot of disconnection around, just like things that'll happen in the media, like the Me Too situation and all these different things. I think what they do is they plant seeds of disconnection within our society and our community.
Yes.
So how do you feel like, I don't know if that's too wordy of a question, but like the connection between men and women, like, how do you feel that connection is important when it comes to oneness, or energetically, when it comes to love and sexuality and creating things in life? What's your take on that? Like the connection between men and women, or masculine and feminine, or yeah.
I believe in 100% responsibility. So what you see outside of you is what's within you. So if a client was coming to me and they're having a relationship problem, my personal work is that it's literally within you. So, what I say is you have a king within you and a queen within you. Your divine feminine, your divine masculine. If they're out of balance, that's literally going to be projected outside of you. So if you're not balanced, how could you see something outside of you that is balanced? So I do believe that you actually have to look within. It's kind of
that again. That's a good point that you brought up. So
what did I say?
If you look outside of you,
yes,
and like if you're unbalanced, you're going to see unbalanced.
Exactly.
You're not going to be able to relate to balance because you're unbalanced.
Exactly.
So, I mean, maybe talk about that a little bit more, because I have a feeling there's a lot of people out there that are programmed a certain way, and they don't see outside of what they see.
Right.
So how do you shift that or reformat like that energy? Is there a way to do it?
So there's a way to have the question, okay, this is what I'm seeing. Where am I doing this myself? Because if it's showing up in one aspect of your life, it's showing up in all aspects of your life. It may, of course, look different, like in your money or your relationship with your spouse or with your kids or that, but it's literally being perpetuated through, because that is literally your vibration. So if you're vibrating at discontent or dis-ease or imbalance, that's how your life is going to be vibrating. And of course, they talk about like the rose-colored glasses, like what you feel, what you have beliefs around, that's literally what you see. Like if you believe that there isn't a color green, you wouldn't be able to see the shirt you're wearing because you don't actually believe that that's possible. So if you have a belief that everything's outside of you, you have no control. But that's actually the gift in it, because once you know that you do have the control within you to change everything, because you are God's source, goddess source, you are that living expression of the divine, you can start to change it. But it's by changing you. It's not about changing the other person, because there's also where we fix the realities we live in, because we expect a person to show up the way they do, so they can't actually change either, because you're not allowing them to, because they're in your reality. So if you have like someone who's always late, like if you expect them to be late, they can't be anything else but late.
Right.
But if you actually just start to, destroy each moment. Like I'm a destructive person. I like blowing things up, demolition and destruction, because that's how you create. Is first you have to destroy what's there, and then you allow it to be new. So destroying each moment, each relationship, each and every day, so that literally you can show up in the moment, that person can show up in the moment, and things can begin to shift, because you're not having that like focus site where you only see them as one way. You're not allowing them to be any other way.
Right. Yeah, I took a communications course at like, I'm sure you probably heard of Landmark Forum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's really powerful that how you listen to people is how they show up.
Yes.
And it's what you said is so true. I mean, if you look for something to show up a certain way, it's going to show up the way that you look for it to show up.
Yes. You create your own proof.
Right. Right.
Yes.
I was watching a video from I think it was Greg Braden,
mm-hmm.
The Divine Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about like what you search for, you actually manifest.
Yes.
And it's it's easy to see, like sometimes when you look at other people, it's easy to see some of their stuff, just like it's probably harder for us to see our own stuff.
Yes.
But it's it's really interesting because if people believe they're going to find something, they usually find it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And they manifest it too in their life. And then they go, look, I was right. I knew this was how it was going to happen.
Yes.
But sometimes it's hard for people to actually see anything different because that's what they want to see.
Yes. Plus, we have all these wounds from our childhood, from the things that have happened to us. So literally the vibration we're attracting at, we just attract the same people in different forms until we actually heal that wound, until we actually heal that piece of ourselves. Because until we do, we're going to attract the same type of relationship or the same type of person, the same type of situation. Until we break that, it's going to keep showing up until you actually heal it, if you choose to. I mean, you can perpetuate it until this body is done. That is a choice. But if you want to actually see something different, it's really, okay, what do I need to look at in me? Because what you see is literally what's within you.
So there's wounds that people are walking around with, all these wounds, and they don't know that they have any. Yeah. And it's not like we're saying there's anything wrong with having them, or that they shouldn't have them, or we're trying to fix the wounds.
Yes.
If someone has these wounds, like, what do you think is a good process for them to start working on it, where they can be reflective of like what's really going on and where is that coming from? Because as we go through life, we seem to be unconscious to like some of these patterns because we've been carrying them with us the whole time. We're like the fish in water that doesn't see there's no water for a fish because that's like their world. So how do you start to look at those wounds, not get wrapped up in the story, and then be able to like shake those off so that, you can shift the vibration of your life? Do you have any practices for that you work with clients on?
Certainly. It's definitely about, as humans, we like contrast. So looking at what isn't working in your life first.
Like a reality show, like drama, right? Like we like to, oh my gosh, it is happening.
Yes, what drama are you creating? And then it becomes a choice. Because when you actually literally choose, and not like the half-assed choice, like, oh, I'd like this to change, but like, I'm going to do what it takes to shift this, then you can be open to the inspiration, because the universe is literally giving you signs of the things that can assist you. It could be a person to talk to. It could be a name that pops up, a book you see, a sign that you drive by. Like literally the signs are literally around us, but we don't see them because again, that's not our focus.
Right.
So when you actually decide that you're ready to have this change, start to be open to the signs, and then really get into your body, like your body wisdom, your sacred sexuality, like literally all the power is within you. And your body is a vessel, a vehicle that doesn't have judgment, that doesn't have the filters that our minds have, but can receive the intuitive information. So when we start to connect with our bodies, with our sacred sexual energy, and start to actually turn that up, that automatically shifts our vibration. Because when you're in more of your power, the things that aren't working, they won't be attracted to you. Like, because literally everything is about who you're being more so than what you're doing. Like, you can do all the right stuff, but if you're not being the same vibration, you're totally going to attract the same thing.
Right.
So it's about changing your vibration. And you can do that by tuning more into your power, because again, those kind of lower energies, and I put that in quotes because there really isn't like a difference in them, but those energies that you're not wanting to choose, they literally won't be attracted to you, or they'll cycle quicker. Like, you learned your lesson, it'll just leave. Like, relationships will go, situations will happen, and sometimes life looks like a bomb hit it. Sometimes when you really start to choose, but then you get to start at that ground zero. It doesn't have to, but sometimes it does. But you get like a clean slate where you can actually build a foundation where you're really tapping into your full power, where you're tapping into your intuition, and where you actually are choosing for what you actually desire rather than the default that's been showing up.
Yeah. Now, some people that are real spiritual, they believe, like, I've heard this belief, like, if you have desires, then I've heard people even say, hey, that's not good, because then your karma is going to continue, and you're going to be in this cycle where if you always desire stuff, then you won't evolve spiritually. Have you ever heard anything like that? And what's like a good way to look at that? You know I study a lot of metaphysical and law of vibration, and I've always heard from some of the people that I listen to that it's not so much the desire that's, like a negative. It's more the lack, like being focused on the lack versus the desire. And that's where people's suffering comes from, is by looking at the lack, not at what they desire. So what's your take on that?
Yes. Well, like you said, the suffering is optional, like how you view it. But as far as desire, what I would say is that if you have it, it's yours. Again, if your soul didn't vibrate with the desire that you're experiencing, you wouldn't have it. Like, there are some people who want to be amazing athletes, and some who want to build empires, and some who want to be stay-at-home moms.
Right.
And that's perfect exactly for them.
Right.
That's their desire. Certainly there are desires that are more led by social media. So we have to be a little more careful that we're actually going into our heart for our desires, like our true soul-led desires. And when you actually follow those, the path will actually open up, because it is following spirit, it is following intuition. But if you have the desire, it's because it's yours.
Right. You had we had talked on the phone, and we had a conversation about significance, and it reminded me, because I went through Landmark Forum, we learned something about a story, that like the story really, it has no meaning except the meaning that we give to it. Yes. And then sometimes we can lose complete focus on really what's important in life, and we get so trapped in the story or the significance, and we make things so significant. Especially, I thought about this as a young child, when things happen to you that are traumatic, whether you're like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. I mean, as a child, like, the whole world revolves around you. You're so significant because your parents are focused on you. Like, everybody's taking care of you. Everybody's loving you. Everybody is hugging you. It's like you're the center of attention, as a child. And then sometimes things happen when you're a child, like somebody says something to you that you take it really significantly. Mm-hmm. Or like maybe your parents go on a trip somewhere and you feel like your parents left you, and now you feel like you're abandoned, and you're like, what's going on? Like, what happened to me? Like, I thought I was the center of attention. Yeah. So I would love to hear your take on significance, because as I look at like the stories of life and how significant we make everything, we had talked about how it increases the resistance around that area that we're focused on. And we get so attached because we make it so significant, especially like when people have trauma in life, or, something happened to them and they go into the victim mode and they're like, can you believe this happened to me? And we make it so significant, and then we hang on to that energy. And a lot of times we carry that through life. And some people never let that stuff go. I mean, I've literally met family members that don't talk to their siblings for 30 years.
Right.
And I'm like, why? Like, how could anything be, so bad that you would not talk to your own family for like the rest of your life? And I think it has to do with the significance. So I would love for you to share a little bit about significance and why making something significant could actually cause resistance to some beautiful gifts in life that are out there that could be on their way in, but maybe not if you hold on to stuff.
Right. So I think it's kind of what we said before about the belief system and the truth system. Now, the truth is what's true for you. It may not be true for anyone else. And it's a different way to look at things because we're actually given our belief system. Like it's our parents, the upbringing, the religion, as you said, the things that happen in our formative years that we kind of hold on to. We're told that. So then we believe that about ourselves, and then that's a sticking point. So it's kind of like a pattern interrupt, and then life kind of veers off of that because that's what you believe. And as adults, we carry this on. We make such things as, let's see, I'm trying to think, what's a good word for significance? Like when you make things really dense and really heavy so that nothing can actually move around it. So we have things about being the good girl, about being the good wife or the good husband, about being the perfect student. So there's kind of these archetypes that we try and live up to.
Maybe our parents always telling us, oh, you have to be successful. And then we have that stuck in our head.
Yes.
Of like what that looks like, to the point that nothing else is important unless we hit, that milestone.
Yes.
And then a lot of times people get there and they're like, is it it? Wait,
yes.
Yes. And they don't even know why did they work so hard to get there. When they get there, they're like, wait a second, well, what's next? Or
yes,
is this it? Is this, what I was working so hard for?
Yes. It's that energy of goals. I actually love researching the energy of words. And the word goal actually came from the English word that meant jail. So even though it's different in these days, it still has the energy. So as you said, people could reach a goal. They wrap their identity in, being a CEO or the perfect spouse. And then they actually reach that. And then there's a lack of fulfillment because there's nothing else. Their entire identity is wrapped up in it. It's so significant. That's the only thing they think they are. And what else do they have? So when you make something so significant, when you make it your identity, how can you have anything else? Whereas there are infinite possibilities of who you could be. And as evolving spiritual beings who have infinite power, we could literally do it all if we chose to. Yet we stop ourselves because we think we can only have one thing or a couple things because that's what we've been told. That's what we've wrapped our identity around. That's what we've made so important in our life that we can't allow anything else. So again, it's that filter. We can't see anything else, which means we can't receive anything else. So you're blocking so many opportunities, so much more you could receive, so much more you could be, because you've made a few things significant. And when you're so tightly held in that, all your energy's here, it can't breathe. Right. And it can't grow. When there's the possibility to blossom in life, but you're not allowing it because you're so wrapped up in this one identity, this one thing you're supposed to be, this one thing you're supposed to have. And it's really about looking at What do I want? What do I desire? Because again, your truth has nothing to do with anyone else. It doesn't have to do with your parents or your spouse or your religion or anyone else. It can include other people, but it's still about you. What do you desire for yourself? And are you willing to allow that in? And sometimes that means, a lot of changes, but it's a choice.
Right. And then as far as because you work with a lot of people with relationships
Mm-hmm.
and connection and sexuality, how do you feel that work impacts somebody's professional life? Like by working on their personal life,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel that gives energy to everything else they're doing in life? And could you give a couple examples of maybe some people that you have worked with in the past or had experience with? Because I know a lot of people get really focused on those goals that we talked about.
Right.
And then they forget about everything else.
Yes.
And they wonder why things don't happen as quickly for
Mm-hmm.
them because they're so focused and they're working really, really, really hard and they're making everything really significant.
Yes.
So how does working on your personal life and bringing the play and everything else into it, how do you feel that impacts or creates a ripple effect?
I think it changes everything. Literally, again, life is created from your vibration. So you can choose to do the hard work. You can choose to make everything a struggle. That's a choice. Or you can actually start to, as you said, it's personal. And by personal life, it's really in your person. Again, it's not even if you have a partner, it's not about them yet. You have to change yourself first and then invite the other person along. Because when you are at your peak vibration, you're the invitation to what you desire. And then the other person gets to choose whether that's something they desire. But again, everything in this world is energy. Money is energy, clients are energy, information, intuitive resources, everything is literally on a frequency. And when you're at your highest tuned frequency, you can actually receive that. And just by shifting it, you can allow things in where you've been struggling. I had a woman I worked with, and she had this really kind of tight energy in her body. And what was coming up for me was that she really felt buried. Literally the picture for me was she was underground, buried. So we did some energy work on that. And she'd been really, really, really struggling with finances. Her business, there were so many expenses, life expenses. And just by shifting this, she brought in income a few hours later.
Oh, wow.
Whereas what she'd been struggling. So it can be that simple. I mean, obviously we don't promise that that's what's going to happen, but it can be that quick because the universe is like that. When you ask, you receive. It's up to us how long it takes. There is divine timing and sometimes things need to gestate, but literally the universe answers your ask in that moment. So it really can be that quick. And when you actually really start to have that power within yourself, because your sacred sexuality, it's a application that it's just about sex. It's about your confidence. It's about your power. It's about how you are in your body. It's about how you move through the world, how you express in the world. And if part of you's turned off, how could you shine as brightly? If you're a business person, if your energy isn't turned on, clients could literally walk past you and not notice you. You could have the conversation with them, but if you're not in your power, they won't see that you could transform their life because you're turned off or you're turned on at a fraction. So when you actually turn that on, that allows you to be who you are and to attract the partner you desire, the relationships with friendships, business relationships, with money, with your own sacred sexual practice, with the life you want to literally seed. Because when you actually follow your desires, because again, if you have them, they're yours. Like, what is joyful to you? What is pleasurable? And when you actually follow that, more of that is attracting. Because again, like attracts like. So if you're focused on what brings me more pleasure, what would be joyful for me to do, what in this moment would be the most fulfilling, and you follow that, you're going to attract more of that.
Right. Any other stories that you could share with some of your clients? I would love to hear if you have any. I mean, you don't have to say their name or anything, but
well, of course. Let's see. Well, I recently worked with one, and she was having difficulty with her sacred partner, bringing him in, rather, her children, and she was really wanting to create more for her life. So when she actually chose and really made that decision that she was going to do what it took, and like really, again, make that firm decision within yourself that you will do whatever it takes, her life began to shift. Like for a little bit, it looked like everything imploded. Right. And sometimes that needs to happen. Like you need to demolish things so you can build up. But then her partner came in. Whereas, it'd been years without. And her children were starting to react more differently because it's a legacy she wants to create. I mean, that's kind of my whole premise, is creating empires of light. That includes you, that includes your partner, that includes your legacy, whether it's a child or a business. And you can really begin to create this and shift this, and your relationships can change. I have another client who her relationship with her children completely looks different just by shifting into more of her power.
Right.
And then she was allowing herself to be more in her business. So she was able to attract more money so she can create more for herself, for her children, for her clients.
Right. That's cool.
I mean, it's the two things that we have the most difficulty with as humans, is sexuality or relationships and money. They're the most misunderstood, but they're the things that change everything. Again, your sacred sexuality is your power, your confidence, your fuel. And then money is how you impact the world, how you actually get to shift things with your energy, your choices. So when you actually work on both of those, you really can create more of what you actually desire to see, because you are putting your full fuel, God source, towards consciousness. And if more people do that, that ripple effect will create what we all desire.
Yeah, like the other day I got an email from this guy, Adam, and you probably know which Adam I'm talking about, but he had like an Inspired Men's, kind of like the seminars where he's got all the videos, and I watched a bunch of those, probably 6 or 8 of those. I got a couple of really interesting things, because a lot of these guys, like they're business people, they're coaches, a lot of them are generating 7 figures a year. And I think there was one guy that I listened to, he said he hired 11 coaches in 1 year. And there's something that, I believe in coaches. I've grown up in sports. Like I played 5 sports. I was in soccer, like I was in track, I was in football, I was in swimming. I used to show horses. I used to take riding lessons. I was on a shooting team. So for me, I get the concept of a coach. Like, my soccer coach was the same as my wrestling coach. And we used to hate wrestling practice, but we would win all the time because he knew what we needed to do in order to actually win. And a lot of times when you try to get outside your comfort zone and actually make yourself stronger, it's not necessarily something that's pleasurable in the moment when you're talking about like fitness or sports. But what's pleasurable is like when you win all the time.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
like he was also the soccer coach too. And I mean, the drills that he had us do, I mean, we were just like, oh my gosh, like, but we won like every single game. And so sometimes we don't like the process that we're going through because it stretches us from where we've been.
Yes.
And I think that's probably one of the most difficult things for people is like, you know, when you look at, like you talk about, like people worry about sexuality and money, like those are the two main concerns. A lot of times when people, because I've hired coaches before for many things, a lot of times people go, well, why can't I work on this on my own?
Right.
And I see some of those people saying this, they stay in the same pattern over and over and over. It's almost like they can't get out, like they're in quicksand. So what's a good way for somebody to look at like hiring a mentor or a coach?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if I go for like, you know, something that's like an important meeting, a lot of times I'll get coaching or I'll call up somebody that's like a mentor of mine and go, hey, what's your take on this? And, you know, what's your opinion? Because I'm not saying that it makes you weak to actually ask for help from somebody else. But if you're trying to get to a new level in life or a new level in your energy or relationships, and, you know, for the people out there that have this mentality, like, why can't I just work on it myself? Why do I have to pay somebody? And what qualifies them? You know, all these little voices that people hear.
Yeah.
What's your take on a coach or a mentor or someone there for you to support you in reformatting your, like getting rid of your, breaking the cycles and kind of destroying the cycles that keep you where you are?
Yes.
And getting to a new level?
I believe it's 100% necessary. I mean, I don't have 11 coaches, I have 3. But I believe it's absolutely necessary. I had a client yesterday.
But people say, well, why are you wasting money? Like hiring somebody else? Don't you already know this stuff? You know? And like, how is having a coach help you, whether it be like money or, you know, life?
So, hi, we have a little visitor. Say hi, everyone.
Hey there. How's it going?
So with coaching, again, you see what you expect. So you can't actually see the roadblocks that you have. You can't see the patterns. And you'll actually go easy on yourself because it's comfortable to stay exactly where you are. Whereas someone else can see where you're not actually choosing what you say you desire, the patterns that are keeping you stuck. Hold on. Can I give it to you in a minute? Sorry. It's seeing past who you are. Because again, we have those filters. It's like looking at a dirty mirror, whereas the other person on the other side can see what you look like, but you're looking at the filter. So having a mentor, having a coach is absolutely necessary because, again, they can see past what you've been. They can see real life, real TV. They can see what you can't see. And as far as those who say, why can't I do it myself? These people are a few steps ahead of you. They know what you're going to face and they know how to get there. You know, one coach I was listening to says, to the third grader, fourth grader is king. So it doesn't have to be like, you know, you don't have to look up like guru status or things like that.
Yeah, the fourth grader is like so big because they're a grade ahead of them.
Exactly. So again, you don't want to give your power away, but you do want someone who has gone further than you. Again, it's like that 30-30-30 rule. Like there's 30% who or you're like your colleagues. There's the 30% you serve, and then there are 30% who actually are above you to what you're wanting to strive for. And it's continually growing. It doesn't stop. So that's why you continually need to grow. And if you're not growing, literally you're dying. So by choosing to actually invest in yourself, and that's really what it is, it's investing in yourself. Because if you actually have some skin in the game, put your money where your mouth is.
Yep.
Like you may actually follow what they're saying because you actually have something invested in it. Right now you have an investment in your story, in how things look. And in order to change it, you do actually require someone's help. Like we're not meant to do it alone. I mean, life is a picture of that. Ebb and flow, inhale, exhale. Everything is a partnership. There's an energy exchange. So if you think you can do it by yourself, you can try. You can make it harder on yourself, or you can make it easier. Look to someone who's a little bit ahead of you and can actually see where you're stopping yourself. So if someone's saying, I don't want to invest in a coach, you're basically saying you're not worth it.
Right.
And that a lot of times they don't believe they can do it themselves. So again, it's a trust piece. It's not trusting other people. It's, can I trust myself to actually follow through? Because a lot of times it's us that doesn't follow through.
Right.
So can you actually follow the intuition? If someone comes up to work with them, awesome, go with them. Because literally that is your piece that the universe is gifting you to get where you are in an easier way.
Yeah, I see. You know, I've been through different courses that have gladly paid me, you know, multiple times over that I've taken. And you know, there's a lot of people that just get caught up in like, oh, why does it have to cost me money? Or, you know, a lot of times, and, you know, a lot of these are businesses that like, they have programs for people to develop and grow. And obviously they're a business and they're there to make money too, but they're also there because they deliver immense value and they serve other people on like having, you know, extraordinary results. And a lot of times people will go, hey, you know, why do I have to pay money? Like I can't afford it. And a lot of times maybe it's what I look for and what I manifest in my life. I'm like, how can I afford not to do this? Like if like, imagine, like I'm always thinking, imagine the possibility is if I throw my hat in over the fence and I just, you know, take a leap and take a jump, that everything will be fine. But it's not meant to be comfortable all the time. And people get confronted by finances a lot of times. And then they cost themselves like immensely. Like I was telling a story yesterday. I was working somewhere and I had mentioned that I had taken Landmark, and I took this introduction to leaders program, which was like 6 months long. And I think the whole course, it was more of a time investment because you had to be there like all these weekends over a period of 6 months. And you basically, you know, it was funny when you first take the course, you like try to put the course and you try to fit it in your life. And it was more like you had to fit your life into the course.
Right.
It was like the reverse of it. Like you can't just squeeze it in your life. The course is your life, right? So you go through all these different avenues in life, and the course may have cost me, I don't know what it cost me, like $400 or $500. The bigger cost was the time investment.
Right.
You know, of like volunteering, and then we got to coach, and we got like, you know, people around us that would like give us feedback, and we had things in the course that we had to do, almost like Mr. Miyagi, where he's like, oh, just wash the car, you know, like wax on, wax off. And while you're doing some of this stuff, you just get so resistant to like, why am I doing this stuff? And then sometimes you do stuff to do it, and then you get a big breakthrough like after you do it. Like I've volunteered for many courses where like I didn't get paid, and I basically contributed like my whole weekend. But I got something really big out of me volunteering. So like, I think there's so many resources out there, whether someone were to take a course or pay for a course or look at the resources or volunteer. But there's some people like they're okay where they are, which is fine. Yeah. And, but this one course, like I'll tell you a story. So I took this one course, and while I was taking this course over 6 months, I actually caught a wanted fugitive that was wanted by the FBI.
Really?
And I generated another $100,000 in residuals from 4 days work.
Wow.
And I truly believe it came out of taking this course.
Mm.
And I'm not trying to sell the course. I'm just trying to say that, like, in the course, we had to do mirror work, and we really had to get in touch with ourselves. And we had to connect with, like, who we were, like, truly as, like, our authentic self, and just bring that to the table. And it's almost like if I said, okay, you're going to be excited and run down the street naked and jump up and down and be excited with yourself. When you really, really connect with yourself in the mirror, not just, like, look in the mirror and, like, judge and all this other stuff, but, like, we're talking eye to eye, like, soul to soul connection.
Yes.
There was, like, this huge breakthrough that I got. And I got, like, all this work. I got written up in the paper. I got inducted into my high school Hall of Fame. And this is all out of this course.
Yes.
It cost me much more in time than it did in money.
Yes.
And so that's why, like, I guess I'm a evangelist when it comes to, like, personal development and, like, really stretching yourself outside the box, because for me, it's dropped, like, amazing treasures into my life. It's, like, allowed me to connect with more people. It's allowed me to have infinite resources. It's allowed things to just, like, I mean, I get calls every day. I mean, I'm the guy that looks for synchronicity. Like, I look at numbers and I go, oh, that's why I saw that number. Yeah. Or, you know, I pay attention to everything around me as, like, a clue from the universe. So that's kind of like my experience with courses, you know, to kind of say, well, what could it do for you? Because I always meet people, they're like, well, I'm just waiting for the universe to just kind of give me enough money so that I can feel the right way to actually take the course.
Right, yes.
And sometimes, you know, it's like you were saying, it's all in the being, like who you're being. And if you study a lot of these books, it's in like getting into the feeling.
Yes.
And being a certain way. And I think a lot of people in life, besides looking outward for validation instead of looking inward, I think a lot of people in life wait for their circumstances to line up for them to do stuff, as opposed to actually making a commitment. You know, it's like exercising, like what I said with the coach and fitness. Like, you go to work out, you're not like, oh, this is going to feel so good. You're like, oh, I got to go work out. But then after, like, an hour of sweat and cardio and fitness, you feel like $1 million, and you're like, I'm so glad I did that.
Yes.
But people sometimes don't see that in their life with other things, whether it comes with, like, connecting with other people or going out there and finding other resources. Like, just do it.
Yes.
And by just doing it, like, you'll feel better. But I think there's too many people waiting to feel better to do anything.
Yes.
To plant any seeds, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, feeling is important, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yes. Yes. They're waiting for the big sign, you trip over a bag of money and, like, oh, now I can do this. But it's, as you said, it's the commitment. It's when you decide you're all in that you'll do what it takes. Because when you actually have that, I mean, working with divine wealth, a lot of the people I come up against or talk to, they have issues with money, but money is actually never about money. Time is never about time. Money is about value. Like, do they value themselves or do they value what you offer? Time is an intimacy issue. So all these things that we have, again, the significance around as things that stop us, instead of looking to it as a stopping place, if you have resistance, that means go for it, because there's something on the other side. And you just keep going for it. And when you keep going for it, again, it's a practice. You know, like going to the gym, you don't do it once and then you're like, yeah, I'm a rock star. And then never go. Like, that doesn't work. But it's a practice. Like, you continually do it. And when you continually meet the resistance and you overcome it, you have your life blossom in the most amazing ways. Because first, you're actually showing the universe that you're all in, and it will meet you on an even greater level. Plus, there's something on the other side for you. Like if it wasn't meant for you, again, it wouldn't show up. So if it's showing up and if you feel resistance, that's that ego place that's like, oh, it's more comfortable to be right here. Like I may not like it, but it's comfortable, it's safe. This is what I'm used to. But if you have resistance, like my number one thing is there's resistance, go for it.
Right. Jump off the cliff.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's key. You know, there's a lot of people that just get, I mean, again, like, you know, I live in LA, and, you know, money and making a living is a big focus for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They're chasing the dollar.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people put a lot more effort into money than they do anything else in their life. But somehow they don't see how it all comes together. They're just like, oh, this is more important right now because I have to pay my bills. And they get into this limitation resistant belief that they're not going to have enough to pay their bills. And that's where they continually vibrate, is like, oh, not enough, or so worried about, because it's not a healthy money energy. It's like a worry money energy. It's like, oh my gosh, where's the money going to come from?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, but I feel like, and this is just my take, I feel like if you're always giving and you're resourceful and you connect to the resources that the universe has, and you give a lot of value everywhere, not just in one area of your life, but like if you give value in your fitness and your health and your relationship, like everything works out.
Yes.
But I think when the wheel goes off balance and you're just like giving in one area and you're not giving in all the other areas, like it's kind of out of whack a little bit energetically.
Yes.
And you probably come across a lot of people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like one thing's gone really well and the other one is.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Again, it's your focus. So like with money, you know, you're focused on paying your bills and you're like, okay, you know, I have this job or the sales or whatever. You're literally, that's all you're focused on. So first of all, you're focused on your bills. So you're just going to create more of those.
Bills.
You're limiting yourself because you're choosing to look at your job or those sales as your source. So the universe, God, spirit, whatever you prefer to say, is your source. There are channels, whether it's a job or other people, all these infinite ways it can come to you. You literally could trip over a bag of money if you believe that was in your sphere's possibility. But we limit it because we say, oh, it's going to come through my job. It's going to come through this one thing that I do. Right. So literally you're limiting an infinite universe to this one funnel, whereas you could open up to everything. And when you actually start to take your focus off of things like bills or things like that, like what would be pleasurable? I mean, I'm not saying just like rip up your bills and don't pay them, but but it's like, what do you focus on? If you focus on what is pleasurable, what is joyful in this moment, you know, something I give my clients is in the moment, ask, where do I go and who do I talk to? And I've gotten so many things doing that.
Pleasurable and joy?
You can add that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I mean, I get led to coffee shops a lot. I'm big. Starbucks and Coffee Bean have been really big, plus, you know, some other ones. But I've gotten apartments. I've gotten house sitting. I've gotten a paid trip, things just by asking, by being open to the energy, by following it. And where do I go? Who do I talk to?
Right.
And by doing that, that will open you up to a client you need to see, a book you need to hear, someone who actually needs your help. All these different things, by being open to the energy, that means you're open to the universe, open to the possibilities, open to the pleasure, open to the money, the resources, because everything's literally possible for you. Until you believe it's not. Until you choose that it's not. So what choice do you want to make? You may want to think about that. Like, what choices am I making? Where am I limiting myself? And again, it's looking inside.
Right. Yeah, speaking of the money, I told this story before. I always tell it, but one week I found $400 cash in two different places.
Awesome.
So I went to a party store. Talk about having fun. I was at the party store and I was getting some supplies, and I looked down. There was two $100 bills. I looked around like nobody was around. I like waited, 10, 15 minutes. Then a couple of days later, I was in an elevator to go to a meeting with somebody in the entertainment business, and I looked down in the elevator. There's two more $100 bills, like
Awesome.
in the elevator. So it's, and I'm one of those people, like I win lotteries, I win raffles.
Yes.
I've won TV sets, I've won the lottery, playing someone's phone number. But that's kind of like who I am and what I look for. I look for, I don't know, I guess I look for the positive things out there, because why not? I mean, you can look at anything you want to look at.
Yes. Yes.
So
There's that one sentence or one quote, you can live as if everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle. So
right,
it's literally your choice. It's literally your focus. So you openly look for possibilities, for synchronicities. That's how you're wired. That's how you look. And that's a choice. So that's what you see. That's what your reality is. So that's possible for everyone. And that's possible in every area of your life. So if there's something that's not working in your life, how can you start to tune that? All right, what are the possibilities? What are the synchronicities? And start to shift that, because you can start to build that out. You have that in one area of your life, but start to build that out. And we can all choose this, because, as I said, there are infinite possibilities for what you can desire, what you can choose, what you can have. The only thing limiting it is us.
yeah, I agree. So to conclude the call, because you've given some really amazing information, is like a couple of last questions for you. Is like, how do people find you? What is it that you do for people that is like your specialty?
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of the big things that you're up to in creating and manifesting out there in the universe, when it comes to like your purpose?
A lot of questions.
So how do people find you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my website is Nurturing Divine Beauty. You can also find me on Facebook as that, Nurturing Divine Beauty. My personal is Sophia Leva Marie. And then as far as what I do with clients, luxury has always been part of my purpose. The things I liked as a kid, it's built out. So it's really about recreating yourself as the king or queen in your life. And again, that is about balancing your feminine and masculine, tapping into your sacred sexual power, and creating your particular empire of light. Again, that's your legacy in love, which is your family, and in business, because that's your purpose. Again, it's the power and the impact in the world. Those are the things I work with: sacred sexuality and divine wealth. And by really claiming that power, you claim the three areas in your life. As a king or a queen, you rule, you serve, and you receive. And when you're fully overflowing in all of those, you really can shine as that beacon of light, because that's what we're creating, is this new consciousness, this new light being, where our world looks the light, the money, the luxuries, the life that we desire, because that's what we're creating. That's the energy we're creating, both for ourselves, our families, and the clients we're here to serve. And that shifts the entire world rippling out. And then I believe the last question was what else?
What are you up to creating? Like what do you see for yourself in the next year to a couple of years? Your legacy. Yeah.
Lots of things. So, well, I'm actually moving next month to Italy. That's my soul's home. So I get to play there, which will be really amazing. And I have a couple workshops going on. One's really interesting about sacred rage. It's with Veronica Monet, and it's kind of with the Me Too piece about how to feel into the anger and the hurt, but have the sacred outlet for it. So it's not going towards vengeance or blame, but it's actually in a healthy place where you can actually create the consciousness that we're looking for. So we're going to do a women's version and a men's version. And then I'm also doing something with Barbara Wilder about finding. I'm sorry?
Where is the rage being held?
Because
no. Where is the event?
Oh, it will be a Facebook Live. We'll start to put up the promotions and links for that very soon. So
people can register for that on your website.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah, so that'll be fun. And then Barbara Wilder and I are going to play with something about finding your true love, happily ever after. So there's a lot of pieces to that. So we're going to play with that as well. And then once I move to Italy, I'm really looking at just working with my coaching practice as well as creating a couture clothing line that's infused with energy, like Reiki symbols and energies of what we desire in our life. So that's going to be where I'm playing in the world over the next year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So you work with people everywhere, all over the world, right?
Yes. Well, fortunately with laptop and internet, you can go anywhere. And I love retreats and things. And as I said, luxury is part of who I am and what I want to create for myself and my clients. So, we get to meet in fabulous places like Italy or Paris or, Maldives, wherever we want to play.
Yeah, Maldives looks pretty cool.
Yeah, where you can actually create your life in a fabulous kind of, what is the
high vibrational blissful type setting?
Yes. I was trying to think of the word. It's kind of like the sensory experience. So you have it all, and then you get to create from that space. So you take yourself out of your everyday life and you create from this vibration, from this space. So how much more playful and magnificent can your life be when you're creating from like some place like Dubai or something like that. So if you want to come play with me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, hit me up.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for contributing all your gold nuggets and treasures on the call. And I'll post up your link. So, I encourage anybody that's watching to reach out and to, book a session with you or communicate with you, help you with your couture clothing line.
Yeah, definitely. I know
my wife has that.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Reach out to you because she was in fashion and she designed clothing. And she's doing a plant-based food line right now that is all about energy. So
I love that.
Might be good to help. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you, Hugh.
Yeah, have an awesome day. Thank you so much.
Ciao.
All right, thank you.